are live. Oh, okay. I'm just like feeling so much gratitude for you being here right now. This is how we're gonna start this. Hey.
We came for you to see us hug.
What tends to happen before these sessions, I find, is like there's like immediately when someone's like, whew, it's almost like we've already begun. So then to transition even to this, it's like, oh. So
How do we?
Come on. So I think what I'm going to start with is just how you and I connected to begin with, which you may or not have been aware of. Like, it was a really magical time. It was a pre-COVID time, so it was 2018, I think, and it was it was a late summer. It was probably around this time, and I had a really strong calling that I wanted to connect and collaborate with other practitioners in the community. I just had this aha of like, there's so much beauty and message that's coming out from all of our different spaces. What would happen if we connected together and collaborated? And so I was attempting at that time to create an event that was, and now I'm trying to remember what it was called. Oh, soul something.
Soul something.
It was soul something, but it was, the concept was of like creating a staycation retreat. So we had all these different practitioners, and you're one person I reached out to because you were doing, of course, just happening to be doing a retreat at the same time.
You know what's really funny is, and I don't mean to correct the boss, but I reached out to you because I was looking for somebody to do.
That's right.
It was super random because I was calling all these people who teach Qigong to add a Qigong element to my very first weekend retreat that I was giving that was coming up that September.
That's correct.
And so you were like, no way, this is so cool. And we just started, we were like on the phone, like I thought it was going to be like a voicemail thing, and we just kept going, with all these ideas and exploding into things.
Yes. So from that moment on, I was like, I knew that we would circle back. And I didn't know at the time about your podcast, Gratitude Sandwich. And she invited me to be a guest, and at first it was going to be on my birthday.
That's right.
And I was like, okay, I know what I'm going to talk about. I'm going to talk about my mother's. And I said that plural for a reason. And then it was like a pivot shift. Something changed in the schedule, and other things in my life came up in relationship to my son, who I've spoken about, I think, through a couple of these. And the conversation that unfolded between us was just such a wonderful opportunity for me to put voice to the experience that I was having with him and express my gratitude to all that is for having the courage and the presence and the wisdom and the support that I needed to be in that intensity with him. And I'm just going to say I'm grateful for all of the experiences when I look at how I've lined things up in my own experience that led me. Like, one of the big conversations that Lori and I were having before we went live is, the experience of when we went into quarantine and what that shifted for us with our practices and how we were stepping into our purpose in the world. So beyond like the nuts and bolts of getting used to using the screen and Zoom and all that stuff, there's a bigger message behind all of this, and it's the intensity, it's the calling that is literally like surging. The way I described it, and I'm just going to roll with this, and then we're going to go deeper, but I had this lovely patient the other day, and I was listening to her talk, and all of a sudden it came to me, I'm like, the feeling that we are all experiencing, and this was very personal for her, but it also is broadly, I think, applies to all of us, is it's like we're in this ocean, this surging, invisible ocean. And sometimes it's a little still, and sometimes it's like whoosh, and we're all in this ocean. So when you're in that ocean and it feels like you're all alone, how is it that you buoy yourself up? How is it that you navigate these invisible waters that are constantly the currents, the undertow, the surges that are happening? And then the answer, usually we tend to go, it's out there. It's like we need our GPS, we need our support systems. And what I'm experiencing is anything that worked before, and it's like almost a day-to-day, moment-to-moment thing where it's like I'm having to realign with my own intuitive guidance and open to, other ways of supporting myself that I may not have seen before, but they're showing up when I open up my awareness. So yeah, that feeling of the buoying coming from that alignment of the energy within, and that opening to that inner guidance that will show you the way. But if you try to rely on the old systems, like the external GPS kind of systems, you're just going to find chaos and distraction and craziness and feel like I'm under the water again. The other piece that feels so powerful is like when we can really align, it's supporting us. It's guiding us. It's almost like I'm thinking of the movie Moana, which for some reason has come up a lot lately. I think I need to rewatch it.
The song's playing in my head now.
Yeah, yes. I'll put it in the chat feed later. But there's just this beautiful connection with water, and like the way the water is communicating to her when she's little, and the way it's like pushing her along. And it kind of feels that way. But she does have the same experience when she tries to tackle it head on, yes. How it takes her down, and she has to get back up and rediscover the new path that she needs to take. So, okay, so with that being said, this concept of gratitude, and so I want to briefly just kind of, since I've been so much, talk about my experience of that, and I totally want to hear how Gratitude Sandwich evolved and how you experience that in your practice in life. So for me, gratitude is like that inner alignment. When I am open and connected to gratitude, I am open to receiving the gifts of everything that comes my way. Not just the sunshine and rainbows, but the tidal waves that, like in Moana, that might take me down to the bottom of the sea. And
the dragon.
Yeah, all of it together. Yeah. And that when I am open to receiving the gifts of all of those things, I find that the more intense ones are the ones that are holding the most wisdom and guidance, and it creates this flow, it creates this connection that buoys me, that guides me. So it's a little word that I think holds so much consciousness and purpose and guidance. Like when you're really open fully into gratitude, it's so much more than just like, what am I grateful for today? Let me write the words down. I mean, that's one level. It's not to say that that's not helpful, but there's this whole other level when I'm like, I am living in the space that whatever comes my way today, I'm going to be grateful for it. I'm going to start with that because it almost like holds you in this little bubble of like, okay, then the good stuff that's hidden in the shadowy stuff can come through. So I want to hear from you. I want to hear from you what your experience is and how you came to decide that you needed a podcast with such a sweet and precious name, the Gratitude Sandwich.
So I can't even tell you how, I believe that we could be here for like 12 hours because everything she just said, there's so many things to unpack, and inside of all those things, like my soul just like fires and goes, ooh, 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 ooh. But it's we don't have that kind of time.
We got 20 minutes. Go.
So, what's interesting that you brought up about, a gratitude journal and, just writing down, I'm grateful for, I'm thankful for, I'm thankful for. If you've never done this, do it as much as it is training wheels, because it's training wheels. We all need training wheels. Yes. We need to learn how to crawl before we learn how to walk. What's beautiful about so many practices, and I mean, gratitude for me, it just evolved. It was like, someone said it's a good idea to do this. I think it was like an Oprah thing, right? Have a gratitude journal. Say what you're thankful for. And what we pay attention to grows, and boy, has it grown. Over the years, it's been this buoy. It's this thing that if you can stop in the moment of challenge and stop in the moment of worry or, stepping outside of calm when you're in that space, right, in the edge. If you can look around you in that moment and find your favorite color in the room, find the flower outside, whatever it is, just even in the darkest of places, there's always something, even if it takes you all the way back just to the breath. And so in my teaching of yoga for so many years, I have ended probably 80% of all the practices with this moment of, while we're all down in Shavasana after having stretched completely out and finishing Shavasana, come to this place of now bring to mind something you're grateful for years and years and years and years, and allow that one thing to well up inside you, filling you to the measure. And so imprinting on myself and all my students this delicious bite of wholeness. I feel like gratitude is wholeness. And because it allows you to connect into all that is, as you said. So whether it's hard, whether you're sore, whether you're whatever, you come into this moment of connectivity, and everything is okay. The evolution of that, and I think that's what's so interesting about all of our practices. You said you have to get rid of some, and as we were talking before we came on, we have these new practices, or things evolve in new ways, and we're online and we're doing different things, doing things differently. As I practiced gratitude, and it sounds like I was shooting hoops and doing something hard, it became a flow. That same kind of ebb and flow is just part of more of who you are. And just recently, I had this whole new awakening around gratitude that was really delicious. And I just wrote an article about it not too long ago about, well, I'll tell you how it went. I was sitting as we sit, some of us sit, and we have a moment where we're just 15, 20 minutes a day where I sit in stillness. And at the end of that time, or the beginning of that time, depending on the day, I drop in gratitude. Instead of asking myself, what are you grateful for, like I had for so many years, starting out with the writing, then moving into, just practicing. And now sitting, dropping in this question. I didn't even drop in the question, the word, gratitude. And I sat in the energy of gratitude. And I know this sounds super woo-woo, but you know this, lady, so you're into woo-woo. And so, sitting in gratitude, allowing myself to immerse, and this image of a frog came to me. And I was like, oh, my first instinct was, what, that's not it. Waiting for more. And I was like, no, it's the frog. And this frog, and this frog, and this frog took me back to a time when I was a small child that I hadn't remembered for a long time. And if you read the article, maybe we'll put a link to it or something.
Yeah,
there's all these things. This frog took me on this whole journey back through my whole life of all these places, people, times, and things to be grateful for. And I know, I do too, because it was this spirit guide in this moment that dropped in from this practice that I have become so familiar with, that it was allowed to open up more, just like a friendship, right? When you get to know someone more and more, you can suddenly open up more and more. And gratitude became more my friend that day. And there's just this beautiful journey with this frog, and it was really life-changing.
Yeah, and when you shared that, I'm reminded of when I wrote the word for this, embodying. That's the point. Like, at a cellular level, we store these memories. And without even having to push yourself, you can intentionally choose to allow yourself to meditate on times, where you were feeling in a state of gratitude. Because when you go back and you don't just think about it, but you really allow yourself to feel and be present in those moments, it reawakens that connection, which helps you to connect to it in these times that can be a bit more challenging to have that experience. That's beautiful. I love it.
And it's just, I think it's a lesson for me, maybe for everybody, around how you think you have all the juice out of something, and it becomes new. And it becomes new again and again, and bigger and more all-encompassing. And it can be a real gift, rather than just something I used to do, or it was okay. But Gratitude Sandwich came about, and the why it's a sandwich is because, I tell this story in the very first podcast, I had this weird thing happen, which I probably need to learn some more from this lady about this. I was driving down the road, and it looked like I was having a stroke. I lost vision in one eye, one arm went numb, and I pulled over, and like the not most maybe aware person, I was like, I'm probably okay. This is one road home. I'm going to drive. And I drove. It was scary because I had one. There was no pain. I was okay. I got home, and I texted my little group of my Circle of Wagons friends, And I said, you guys, I don't think I'm okay. I have this thing and this thing and this thing. And my friend called me immediately. One of the 8 called me immediately, or 6 or 8 of us. And she called me immediately and she said, what's going on? How can I help? And I started to talk, couldn't talk. So, another layer. Anyway, we rushed me to the hospital. I call her nurse friend. And I'd had, food. I couldn't figure out anything else. But we got to the hospital and they did a bunch of stuff. I'm in this MRI and I can't talk and I'm thinking they can do anything they want to me. I don't know what to do. A lot of fear. And come out of it, and they, after all the blood tests, they found I had dangerously low potassium. So had it gone on any longer, I would have been in a coma most likely. And they were able to give me potassium. It's not a thing you fool around with a lot, as you know, because it's a thing they give you, to like,
heart. Yeah.
Well, if you're, it can end it, right? So it's like if you're,
That's right.
And so, very carefully gave me potassium, and within moments, I was able to speak just fine. Everything was fine. It was fine. But who knew? So, long story short, found a fabulous doctor who helped me through lots of blood work to learn that my body was blocking, or at least this is the theory. I may learn something new. Because of gluten, eggs, and dairy, in my case in this moment, I had a sensitivity to it that I did not know about. And my body was blocking the consumption of, or the receiving of potassium, was the theory. And so quitting those foods, adding some supplements, changed my life. And so I'm super grateful that I don't eat sandwiches, right? But I'm happy to put everything else between 2 healthy slices of gratitude, and it changed everything, because I didn't go into a coma, and I didn't have a car accident, and I didn't have a, pass out right where I was. It was, I had help.
Wow.
So the journey.
And then it opened up this whole relationship with gratitude. So
even deeper. Yeah.
Even deeper.
Yeah. So it's been like 8 years now, I guess. Yeah. So, and I can't wait to learn more.
Oh, that's beautiful. What else would you like to share with us about the way you integrate it with, like one-on-one with people? You were speaking about, like your client before, or through, well, I love how you said in your yoga practice when you lead.
Yeah, and so that's really easy. And so I have, and you were talking about, how you put it before we started, not reinventing yourself, but how we are. That's the words I always use, but how we're becoming. We're talking about how I was telling you how I need to stop being chicken shit about saying who I am and what I am.
Yes. So part of what I was going into the story of, like, the awakening that COVID is bringing for all of us is it's really calling us to get very clear about, when I talk about that buoying and connecting to the highest level of self for direction. I mean, that's about connecting to your purpose on the planet. So there's a lot of levels. There's the levels of, like, I need to stay afloat, which, I mean, really, because that's truly how it does feel, like for life or death purposes. But then there's this higher level that opens to us of, like, what is my calling on this planet? Why did I choose to be here in this time and space? And in order to do that, in order to create that high level of alignment, which I like to say is spirit to mind to body.
Yes.
Not body to mind to spirit. It's this way that needs to happen now. There's a lot of stuff that has to clear out and level up so that we can create that alignment.
Right, and you were talking about how some days it's really loud, what you need to do.
Yes.
Right? And so for me, in the last 3 days, I've been kind of, Spirit's been going, tap, tap, tap on the cheek. Hey, honey, wake up. You're a healer. And it's a word that, like, outside of our safe woo-woo circles, you can't just say that randomly, but so I'm a yoga teacher, I'm a life coach, and what I do is heal, and I need to be able to start saying that out loud, because I have this, like, unicorn clients that are starting to come to me, like I didn't think they existed, people who need to heal from years and years and years of stress and hard things happening, real hard things, like clean pain, like, bad things happening. But so many things, because they've told stories about them for so long, that I get the opportunity to be with them as a life coach, as a yoga teacher, as a healer. And so we are in these spaces where we find, right now I'm teaching a lot of restorative yoga with yoga nidra and guided meditation, one-on-one, which is like this gift. Like, this is a job. I'm so happy. Like, my life has changed into this thing where I get to be, I joke about live the life you love. I don't really joke about it. I use that as a byline all the time. Live the life you love. And people are like, well, you can't be on vacation all the time. I'm like, but what if it felt a lot more like that all the time?
Right.
What if your job was so amazing that you're like, well, can't wait? What? And so the universe is bringing me these people that I didn't even know existed. And I am with them, with spirit, in the moments, doing the healing through the body, through the mind, through the spirit, through this receptive space of that flow of universal energy. So I'm just blowing my mind.
Yeah. Two things that hit for me. One, when you were talking about the intensity of what the clients are going through in the story, this keeps coming up again and again, the trauma. And I think that's part of what we're all being called to clear. Like, enough already. And I'm not trying to be little, because I get it. And I've been through my stuff too, but I've been telling the same stories in different ways for a long, long time. Stories. And that's another piece of my journey is I co-created a foundation and Empower Healing Through Your Story. And it's all about, that was the piece. Beyond that initial collaboration I tried to create, a year later it became the Empower Healing Through Your Story, very much around trauma. So I think that's a huge flip that the universe is calling for us when I talk about this idea that there's things that we have to move beyond and let go of. It's our trauma stories. Like, those of us that are ready to level up, we need to work through that so that we can move beyond that, because there is a beyond that. I mean, I'm really seeing that for myself, and with a clarity, and it goes to the gratitude point too, to be really part of one of the most difficult things with trauma is recognizing the role we played in choosing that path and opening to that space of, can I be grateful?
Which to most people feels like you're slapping them.
Right.
Even mention that, they're like, wait, what? I didn't do this. What's wrong with you?
Right. So it's that doesn't mean that you are, that you don't feel all the feelings you have. But
you're not bad. You're not wrong.
No. I have. I think.
Path.
Yeah. I had a lovely unicorn here. I love how you said that yesterday.
Didn't know she existed.
And she was telling me, like, she's facing some really, really challenging trauma, and she's doing it head on, and she's like, bring it. And so she's like, she's got these incredible visualizations that she's going through, where she's cutting up some of the traumatic pieces of the story and feeding it to a shark, literally pulling the trauma out of her body and and I'm like, yeah, right? I'm like, I just like the creativity and the visual, but the piece of it that I invited her into, I'm like, yes, I love that you are facing it head on and that you're moving it up. But when we create that opening, when we clear something, then you have to bring in. So I'm like, that's where that alignment, that opening up into the gratitude that, like, hey, yeah, you're out, but now gratitude, now I'm aligning and I'm going to bring myself in. I'm going to, open up to what that purpose is and take the action that I need to take. Like, I'm letting go of this side and I'm opening up to this side. And both of those things take some really, like, full alignment actions.
Yeah, and that's the beautiful thing that I get to do with my clients in life coaching, restorative yoga, and yoga nidra is we find what's there, we move it out, we write a new story, and we replace with what they want. Yoga nidra is the most beautiful way to do that, because we come to that place right between waking and sleeping, and we allow our subconscious to be our friend and be helpful, and we build in, after a little bit of work of digging deep, what our soul wants, what our heart wants, what that direction of where we need to go. And it's life changing. My clients are blown away by this process, and we're taking these age old practices and we're playing with them a little bit. Exactly. And it's really, 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 like, so fun to have the freedom and the gift of ages of wisdom and today, and go, okay, well, how does that apply today? We don't always have to do it the exact same way everything always was, because we're new, we're organic. We can't keep doing everything the same way.
Right, and I think, again, it calls to this moment, is calling us to realize that we can take and shift it to meet this moment. And you also mentioned, you brought in the flow, and that is that feeling of like we are so supported right now when you can tune in. So, wow, this is awesome.
Always supported on the breath and supported in the moment, supported.
Yeah. And I think that probably I'm gonna read this, but before we do that, I think the parting message that I keep seeing again and again is it really is about that soul connection, that spirit connection. And, each of the conversations that I'm having with different people is there's not one way to do that. So really allowing yourself to open and be inspired by these conversations and see how does it speak to you, because you have a unique spirit, a unique creative, self that is constantly trying to communicate with you. And there are different ways that you can open up to that. Holding a space of gratitude is a great way to invite that in, welcoming it in.
And the sharks, I mean, that's just one example of the creativity of people.
Right, and I can just see it, and she's got a ferocity to her. I'm like, yeah. I mean, I can see that is what she needed. It was a bloodbath.
Wow.
Any parting words before I read this beautiful?
Yeah, so parting words. No, just so grateful to you. And so looking forward to spending more time with you, and really, so grateful for this community, because I've been really enjoyed these Fridays and coming back and watching some old ones. And
I think you were like in my very first one. I remember because I went live. I'm like, oh look, Gloria's here! Yay!
What's going on? What's she up to? Yes. Well, the reading of this has to do with one of my clients who's another unicorn, another person I didn't know existed, another kind of person, and she actually does letterpress. If you want to just let them see really quickly, I don't think it's, so you can see the art part. See the art part. I don't think it's kind of a shine on it, but I had her take my favorite. You can't see it because of the glare, but my favorite. We'll read it. My favorite gratitude quote in the colors that I wanted for this area of my house that needed purple for feng shui. And she did this beautiful piece for me for that space.
Would you like to read it?
Yeah, it's Melody Beatty, and it's. So if everybody wants to really get deep with us in this, take a deep breath and find your foundation beneath you, whether you're sitting or standing. Feel your feet, feel your seat, feel the breath flowing in, and be a part of the universal flow of life as that prana flows in and out. And know that gratitude unlocks the fullness of life. It turns what we have into enough and more. It turns denial into acceptance, chaos to order, confusion to clarity. It can turn a meal into a feast, a house into a home, a stranger into a friend. Gratitude makes sense of our past, brings peace for today, and creates a vision for tomorrow.
Absolutely beautiful. I'll snap a photo of this and share it on Facebook as well. All right. Thank you, everybody. Have a beautiful, blessed day. Hi, Kelly.
Hi, all you beautiful people.